The My Home Housing Program is a permanent supportive housing program for individuals that were literally homeless at one time. So that means that they were street or shelter homeless for the most part. The program started in 1996, and it was a program of the Behavioral Health Division at that time. So what HUD wanted to see is that there was a side that acted kind of like the rent assistance side. So the program paid to help on that side, and then there was also the service side. So that's kind of the definition of what a permanent supportive housing program. So the program is a lot like rent assistance on the housing side. So program participants come into the program and they pay 30% of their income towards the rent and utilities. We have different kinds of My Home. Most of the My Home that we have is tenant-based My Home. So that means that the subsidy stays with the My Home or with the program participant. So they can live anywhere within Milwaukee County, and there's rent guidelines that have to be followed, but it can be anywhere within Milwaukee County that follow those guidelines. So as you're working with a program participant, if you have a question about those guidelines and what that means and what are the income limits for, or not the income limits, what are the rent limits for My Home, then reach out to one of the community intervention specialists, Paula, Andrew, or Connor, and they can kind of give you more detail about that. There's also at St. Anthony's, so that's like 10th and State, and Johnston Center, which is like 13th Wind Lake and Lincoln area, and then also Capuchin Apartments. We have a set aside of units that are My Home units. So at St. Anthony's, there's 39 units. At Capuchin, there's 12 units. And at Johnston Center, there's 33 units. So those are considered My Home units. Program participants have to participate in or are participating with a service provider, but then they also pay 30% of their income. But those units are, the subsidy is connected to the unit rather than the individual. So right now, applications for the My Home program are prioritized through coordinated entry. So coordinated entry is basically 211 impact. So there's a group of providers that prioritize homeless individuals. And so right now, those individuals that are chronically homeless are prioritized. So to be chronically homeless, you have to have 12 months of homelessness, either straight or over 4 episodes in a 3-year period. Also, to be considered chronically homeless, you have to have a disabling condition. So that is what happens kind of on the coordinated entry level. So we do not take referrals directly from case managers any longer. We take them through coordinated entry. So that is kind of the big broad overview of the My Home program. Part of how the program is structured is that we ask that all program participants are connected to a case manager of some sort. So we do this in a housing first philosophy though. We don't have prerequisites that individuals have to come into the program. We don't have sobriety requirements. We don't have that they have to be involved in treatment. So then we kind of follow that housing first philosophy for program participants, but we do ask that they're connected to some kind of case management. The whole goal of the program is we don't want folks to return back to homelessness. So that is how we work collaboratively together with case management. So again, this case management collaborative between the My Home Housing Program and case management has been going on since 1996. So it's got a long history of working together, and we are a very successful program of getting folks into housing and keeping them housed. But we do have an emphasis on what we ask case managers to do, and we can kind of go into some of that a little later. Do we have any questions in the chat before I go on to the next Connor?
Not at this time, no.
Perfect. So the way that the My Home is structured, Paula, Andy, and Connor each have an agency that they work with. Or, so like in the case of Paula and Andrew, they both work with staff at Outreach Community Health Center. But Paula works with the staff or the CCS program and the TCM program at Outreach, and Andrew works with the CSP program. Andrew has the whole CCS, TCM, and CSP at Whole Health Clinical Group. Connor works with APC, both the TCM and the CCS. Paul works with everyone at Milwaukee Mental Health Association. And then Connor, what is Bell Therapy called now? They changed their name. Did they change their name?
Broad Step.
Broad Step. Okay, so I can, if you have a question about which community intervention specialist your agency works with, feel free to reach out to me, or you can reach out to Sam. She's always a good contact. Her email is in there, and then we can help direct you to the community intervention specialist that you work with. So I know that we'll get into kind of the why we're having this meeting. So I've gotten feedback, and I'm gonna probably stop talking, and I'm gonna look for Paula and Andrew and Connor and Sam to kind of lead this discussion a little bit more. That there's been procedural changes with My Home program. There's not been a change in the forms. So like all of us, that what has happened is within, because of COVID-19, that we've been asked to work from home. So at the same time though, even before COVID, we were trying to kind of work in a way to do more forms paperless. We're trying to move away from working with paper and doing more things electronically. So at this point of where we are with that is that we're just asking that case managers work with their consumers to fill out the forms electronically and send them back to us, and we're saving them electronically. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to see if there's any questions about that, or I'm going to ask Paula and Connor and Sam and Andy I know that they've gotten some questions and feedback from case managers about that.
First, we have a question. Someone asked, do you work with RSC agencies?
Do we work with RSC agencies? So is there, so most of the, so typically right now we work with, we have community case managers, and then we work with CCS, TCM, and CSP. Most of the time there's kind of a plan in place if somebody's in an RSC for some kind of case management after the RSC works with that person. And that's kind of like that transition happens. So we don't work with RSCs right now as the main point of contact for the program. I'm on a meeting. Yeah, go do school.
Have a break.
Okay, go do your break. So now I'm distracted. So if you have a question about somebody's long-term case management and they're working with an RSC, my email's in the chat, and then I ask that you just reach out to me, and we'll work through who their case manager could or should be long-term.
Okay, next question. What are the changes to requirements for twice monthly visits?
So right now, what we're saying for the twice, I encourage everyone, if their agency allows them to do the twice a month visits, I encourage them to keep doing them. I think that I'm finding that, you know, that there's a lot of participants that that's the contact that they get in their house is the twice a month home visits. There seems to be a lot more issues with landlords contacting me with cleanliness issues and other issues. And just my personal philosophy is if you can get in there twice a month and kind of mitigate some of those situations, it will help with long-term housing stability. With that said, I know everybody's agencies have different protocol that they're using for seeing folks in their home with COVID because of the COVID-19. So I really ask that you're go back to what your agency is saying to do. I know more and more agencies are going out and seeing consumers again, and I think that that helps with long-term housing stability as we go on. Or the other thing that I encourage is if you can't do home visits, to have a plan in place about how do you know what's going on in the unit. You know, is maybe reaching out to the landlord more to see if there's been any kind of issues that the landlord has noticed with cleanliness or having folks in there, or their behavior is different or something. I'm getting a lot more
Uh-oh. Wow.
is their needs are being met. What? Did
You
you say, Sam?
You got froze.
You
You were
froze up. We
frozen.
didn't hear anything. And we ask that everybody take their camera down except the My Home staff. Thank
Is
you.
it better?
Yes. No.
Did I freeze?
Yeah. The last
Well,
thing we heard you say was you're getting a lot more.
Landlord?
That was it.
Well, if I freeze, then somebody else has got to jump in and start talking. We can't rely on technology. So I'm getting a lot more landlords that are calling, saying that nobody's coming and seeing the participant in the house, and that things are not well. So I get it. So you have to defer back to your agency policy, but again, find a creative way to make sure that the consumers are getting their needs met in their unit, and landlords are happy that, you know, maybe it's contacting landlord frequently to say, like, has there been any kind of complaints, or how is everything going? Is it good, positive, great? I'm just checking in, introducing myself, so they know who to contact if there is an issue as well. Do any of you have, Connor, Sam, Andy, Paula, do you have anything to say about that, home visits?
Well, with the landlord, anytime there's a problem with our payments, you can always just refer them directly to us, you know, just especially by email is the best way to get a hold of us. And so, yeah, like anytime there's an issue with the payment, just tell them directly just to contact us, because we can resolve that easier that way.
Okay, we have another question, and I'll answer this. So someone asked, how will case managers know when the forms are received and completed, and will they be notified right away if something is missing? So typically we will review paperwork when we get it and let you know right away if something is missing. But if you believe that there are delays with that, then just let us know and we'll follow up. And then there's one more question after that. What if our agency allows us to meet with clients face-to-face? However, the client does not feel comfortable meeting in person due to COVID-19. Can we complete bi-weekly telehealth sessions instead? That one I can answer too. Yes, I would say that's fine from my perspective, but if anyone else has anything to say about that, then feel free to chime in.
I would say if they have the capacity to do telehealth, then just.
Yes, that she's breaking up again, and I don't know if you all
have a
can.
phone and they're talking to.
Yes, it would be appropriate to do that. That would be perfectly fine. Some contact is better than no contact. So just, yeah, reach out to them, see how they're doing, see if, if you can even notice a tweak in their voice might be different, just to touch bases with them. That would be perfect.
Okay. And then someone asks about having a client that is looking for housing but struggling to find a place. If they are with My Home, can they automatically move into one of the Capuchin Johnson Center or St. Anthony's units? So to answer that question too, no. So there are different types of assistance through My Home. One is tenant-based assistance, and the other type is project-based assistance. So in order for someone to transfer into project-based or tenant-based from another, they would have to be considered for a transfer and submit paperwork for that. So if that's a concern in finding housing, then I would follow up with one of us. And then there was another question, they're rolling in. Someone said, when you say at least 4 episodes in a year for qualifying for chronic homelessness status, how long do those episodes have to be?
So the HUD definition of chronically homeless is if you have 4 episodes of homelessness over 3 years, those episodes have to equal 12 months. So, I mean, episodes could be 2 weeks or they could be 11 months. But all together they have to equal 12 months.
Okay.
If you have a question about somebody's chronic homeless status or if how close they are, feel free to reach out to me too. We have a database that we can look things up in, so I can kind of help work that through. Or if you're working with somebody trying to get them their chronic homeless documentation, I would be happy to help work that through as well.
Someone asked if the paperwork, the My Home paperwork's online. So I don't believe it is online right now. So we typically send that out months prior to recertification. But with that said, if you're looking for certain paperwork, you can always reach out to us and ask for it.
Sam, do you want to comment about that and talk a little bit about MCASE and about the paperwork?
So in the beginning, this paperwork was a nightmare to change over to fillable or electronic, because we have a lot of forms that are the same form, but they're attached to different agencies like Capuchin or Heartland. And then we have just the standard like annual renewal and the landlord packets. And trying to get those like submitted and signed was a challenge. But usually if something doesn't work, I'm the person that tries to fix it and make it work. In terms of like MCARES, we're transitioning over into a new software where we're still learning it. And so there's that new database is going to send out emails 120 days early. And all the case managers will, whatever that time frame is, whether it's December 31st or January or January 30th, whatever, whenever your client research is due, you're going to get an email saying to go to our website and click on the forms, which we don't have ready yet because we're still testing and practicing it out. So stay tuned. But we try to make things as easy as possible for all of us, because it's kind of frustrating for everybody as well, trying to maneuver through this transition with COVID and figuring out how we're going to do it and how we're going to keep stuff and stay organized. So And thanks to all the case managers that bear with the students process as well, and you know, let us know what's working and what's not working, because we do need to know that, so we can, you know, try to make things flow a little bit more smoothly and get things done timely.
So I think we have some questions, Connor, right?
Yeah, we have 6 more lined up right now.
Okay, go ahead.
So next one is, how long does it take for a landlord to receive payment from My Home?
As soon as and we ask the case managers, I mean, and this is kind of different, and I want you guys to talk about that. Have you been sending more leases and contracts out via DocuSign directly to the landlord?
Well, I mean, it depends on different situations. If it's a renewal where we don't have to get signatures, after we get the paperwork and send you a copy of the lease, it typically takes a week to 2 weeks. When we got to get signatures, we can sometimes, we've been moving to working with the DocuSign, which makes things a little bit easier. And we'd like feedback on that DocuSign too, what you guys think about that when we send them out. If that's easier on you guys, we'd like feedback on that. But that once we get the leases and contracts signed and returned to us, then it's still typically 1 to 2 weeks.
So, and then we only need leases and contracts signed when somebody moves or they're new in the program and it's their first place. So a new place. And then we do automatic renewals after that.
Okay, yeah, next question. So we have a client that is independent and only in our program to remain in My Home. Are there any other options for the client?
Yes. So who would like to talk about the Move On initiative? So we, and I have put out the message, I think, in the past to the at the operations meetings when I talk at the TCM, CSP, and CCS operations meeting. I haven't been to one for a while, but within with HUD wants us to move on program participants, right? So we're all in the mindset that recovery is possible and that they might not need this level of support. So they want us to open up opportunities to program participants that do fit that. So when we open up Section 8, the Milwaukee County Section 8, so I have it's not the city of Milwaukee when they open up their Section 8. My Home participants that are ready to move on have they're prioritized for our Section 8. So we try to communicate with TCM and CSP and CCS at the time that the Section 8 program is opening up for move on applications. That just happened very recently. But then we're asking that the care coordinator or the case manager works with that program participant to do the Section 8 application. So yes, there is the opportunity, and it's those opportunities when the Milwaukee County Section 8 opens up. There's also, and we can talk about this, I'll talk about this at the basics of community treatment. There is other subsidized housing opportunities that have management support attached to it. So those are out there as well. So there are opportunities.
Okay, and then someone had a question about rental limits, limits for rent, payment standards.
If you've got questions, I'm going to say it's. I mean, we have an hour here. I think if you have questions about the payment standards, contact either myself or Paula, Connor, and Andrew, and they can explain it to you more in depth. Okay. Basically there's a cap on what we can pay, what the My Home program can pay, and that's set by HUD. But then there's another layer of that. that we have to be able to prove to HUD that the unit is comparable to the price is comparable to other units in the area. So it's kind of like a two-layered thing. So it's hard when case managers say, like, what's the limit? So it's easier if you have a place in mind and you can say, oh, does this work? There's also the other layer of what utilities are included or not included in it. So it's kind of complicated.
Another layer to it is finding out you want longevity for that person. So you don't want to hit the maximum rental allowance that's allowed. And again, that can go into more detail sitting down. You don't want to go to the max. So we look at longevity for that person because landlords do want increases every year if they can get it. So yeah, that's another thing we look at.
All right, keep going with the questions. Which one are we on?
We couldn't hear Andy.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, but our limits are going up next month somewhat. So that'll give us a little more headroom to get places. I know we're having problems. Rents have been going up quite a bit, and it's been harder to find things, especially in nicer areas. So hopefully that will help. I mean, but it's hard for us to, like they're saying, it's hard for us to give a specific amount because there is a lot of factors in that, and the utilities are a big part of that. Because our maximum is based on the rent plus what utilities are included. So that is why it's hard, and it's different for gas or if it's electric. There's a big difference if they're, like, for example, like water heat. If it's a electric water heater and the tenant pays for it, that can really affect a lot how much we can pay, or if electric heat can make a big difference too.
That's why we asked the question, what is included in the rent? What utilities is that tenant responsible for? Is it a gas or electric stuff? We ask those questions because we need that information in order to be able to comp out that unit for to see if that unit will work for the program. We ask those questions for a reason.
I don't know, so can somebody mute their microphone? I hear like a TV, or I can't hear you.
Yeah, make sure the mics are muted. Thank you. Okay, and then next question, is My Home staff going into homes to do recertifications? So no, we are not. So I think that question may have been posed to ask if we're doing inspections right now. And no, we are not currently doing inspections. We have a waiver from HUD that is allowing us to not forgo annual inspections right now. And for initial inspections for places people are moving into for the first time, we're asking for videos or pictures of the unit instead of an in-person inspection. So that's what you can expect for that. Next question after that, are you still in need of a form when a different case manager is assigned to the client? Yes, so yes, we do. Ideally, we would like to know about that right away so that we can account for that change and send paperwork and contact the correct people. We get into situations where if we don't know of changes of case management, paperwork will be sent to the wrong places. There will be delays with paperwork and getting recertifications done. Landlords calling the wrong people and creating a whole lot of confusion. So I'm glad someone asked that. That's very important that we are notified of that and that those forms are filled out as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, that form is super critical for me in the area where I need to update the information. So if I don't have it, I won't know about it. And then sometimes the My Home staff isn't aware of it either. So it could be a year later, and then we get ready to send out the annual renewal, and then it still has a case manager from two years ago or something like that. So that's very important for me, and I do appreciate when that's completed.
Okay, next question. If a client is being evicted from their current home while in My Home, is the client able to receive an extension on their My Home recertification? So with that, I guess it really depends on other circumstances. But with that said, just because someone's evicted from a unit, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to lose their My Home. But they do have to do paperwork again as if they're going through a recertification process. So I hope
so when I hear the word evicted, I think there's a court process going on, and that makes me nervous. So if there is it the landlord's not renewing, or is the person actually not paying their rent or something else, and the landlord's filing an eviction? So my rule is small tenant landlord things become really big tenant landlord things pretty quickly. So if you've got a situation that somebody's actually has a court eviction, please reach out to either Paula, Connor, or Andrew right away and kind of let them know what the situation is. Even if it's a situation that the landlord's not renewing and the client's not leaving the apartment. Any kind, there's so many like little nuances to everybody's situation. So I would want to really emphasize that, because the words eviction make me nervous, and there's lots of things that we can do to mitigate it so it doesn't actually happen. So that's why I would say please reach out to your housing program specialists, your CIS.
Definitely. And then someone asks, any chance of having a longer time to get into Section 8? So I think that's in reference, excuse me, to the short period of time offered for move on last time.
We all agree on that.
Yeah.
We all would like more time.
And we are open to suggestions. I mean, like through the year or whatever, we kind of try to get a list like, oh, I'm working with this person, and the case manager is really like, they don't even really need case management anymore. They just really need help paying their rent. And then we kind of try to like keep track of that in order to like reach out to the person so that they're like, hey, Section 8 is coming available, like fill it out. It's not real organized, but like just be. So if you have somebody that fits that, please reach out to Paula, Connor, or Andy, and then we can try to put them on our list to reach out to. And a lot of times what happens is the case manager changes, and then we can't figure out who the case manager is. And then by the time that all happens, then it's done. So, but like Andrew said, we all want that to be a longer period of time.
Okay, so we have 7 more questions right now. So someone asked about how to provide verification that someone has My Home to a landlord. So I'll answer that. So when we do a paperwork for My Home program, there's a certificate of participation form. And when that's filled out, you can show the landlord that the client has My Home in that sense, because it's filled out by us, one of us, Andy, Paula, or myself. And it explains the My Home program as well as the basic guidelines for it as well. So I'll just show the certificate of participation.
Yeah, that is the verification form.
Right. Okay, so another question, are there non-My Home units available in Capuchin? Yes, there are, but it really depends on availability. And that goes for St. Anthony's as well, at the very least. And then the other part of the question is, could a My Home client who's very independent and lives in this setting be eligible for the move on option just mentioned? So I think that's a question about someone in a project-based unit moving into a fair market unit, or perhaps out of the building. And yes, that is definitely possible as well. And let us know if you have any questions about that. Another question, is there a document that shows all the landlords in Milwaukee that accepts vouchers? So no, unfortunately not. And even if there were a list, it would be ever changing. There are landlords that decide not to accept rental assistance from day to day that formerly did. And then the list just grows and it shrinks on a daily basis. So unfortunately, no.
And the program will work with any landlord that's willing to work with the program. just know that. So, a specific list. I mean, if you find somebody that's willing to work with them, that's fine and dandy. We will work with them. So just know that too.
They have a lot of property changes too.
Correct.
Property
About
sales.
different owners, property sales, things like that. So the program will work with any.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. Do the limits for payment standards go up every year in October per HUD? And the answer to that is yes, they do. But it changes every year, I guess I should say. Some years it has gone down. It has not happened in a long time. But yes, it's based upon various factors, including cost of living. But that is determined by HUD. And yes, it is released every year. That is released every year. Okay, next question. Can we have that form sent to us via email, and should we send the updated form to Sam or Paula? Thinking that's in reference to the case manager change form. Yes, just send it to Andy, Sam, myself, or Paula. Yes. If CIS are forgoing annual inspections, is the requirement still in place for case managers to do bi-monthly?
That would be based off of your agency. If you go to the units, that's fine. We can't tell you all what to do as far as going into the places and looking at places and things like that. You have to go by what your agency has for you.
Okay.
But again, I would say too, if you're not going into the units, try to be creative about figuring out if everything is okay in the apartment.
Right, making a phone call to them, just asking, is the unit okay? Is there anything that needs to be fixed or repaired in the unit? Just doing when you all make your phone call, or however you connect with your tenants to ask questions about the unit, that would be great.
Okay, so next question. If one of our clients is living with their parents, is this a documented homelessness? It is not. It is not. So people have to be actually homeless in a place not meant for human habitation, or they have to be in shelter.
Correct.
Next question. Would it be easier for my home staff if we just list the main contact for the client as the supervisor of the program? And I think this is in reference to CCS, I would imagine.
So, are they asking if the care coordinator is the point of contact? What is the question?
I'm not sure. I just read it verbatim. So I'm assuming someone meant that if someone has multiple people assisting with a case related to housing, would it be easier for my home staff if we just had one main contact for the client?
It would be.
So that's what we ask, that we have we have one main point of contact. I know like the ACT model sometimes has several people going in the house, and also with CCS. So with CCS, we work through it, and then the care coordinator receives the packet of information and kind of has a responsibility to make sure that it gets filled out while working with the housing specialist. And then I'm not quite sure with the ACT model, we have a point of contact, one point of contact that's kind of responsible for the My Home. And I don't think that I think that's kind of been settled the last couple of years. I haven't heard complaints about that or anything, but because we asked that there was one point of contact. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Next question. What would disqualify a client for recertification? Also, what if the client and landlord have a voluntary agreement to vacate the home? How does that affect the recertification? So if the client and landlord have a voluntary agreement to break the lease, then we have to have a mutual lease termination form signed by the tenant or the participant and the landlord. And then they have to do paperwork as if they're doing a recertification for whatever place they're moving to next. So that's what happens for that. Someone asked about taking attendance. So just follow up with Jessica about that, about taking attendance for this meeting. Someone asked about units available at Highland Commons. I would inquire with the landlord about that directly if they're making units available at Highland Commons.
Those are just projects. Those are Section 8 projects. So we can't. They don't have fair markets, and so we don't have any contracted in this program. So Highland we can't move people into unless they were transferring to the Section 8 program.
Okay, got it. Okay, then we're actually, I know this was on the agenda. Someone asked a question about match reports and how they calculate the rate per hour. Or is this something that is completed by My Home?
I can pull this up so they can have an example of what we're talking about. Share my
Jessica,
screen.
are you frozen? I think she's frozen.
Oh, well, I'm gonna share my screen of
Or she's very still. One of the two.
report. Hold on, I'm trying to move it. All right.
Yeah.
So this is the
If you want to go on.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta make it smaller. It's too big. So this is the form that we're talking about, and in these areas, I can't answer the question about the rate part. Shriver, can you answer to that?
You're muted. You're muted. Jessica.
The rate, I got it. Thank you. The rate is determined by your agency. So you can use your agency rate. So the way that HUD looks at this, they want to know, this is something I have to report to HUD. So they want to know that, yes, that HUD's paying for the rent assistance, but they want to know how much the program participants are receiving for service. And they're not looking at individuals, they're looking at the whole grant in whole. So you can really use your agency rate. You can use an average agency rate. You can use the rate that is for care coordinators. You can use the rate that's for a case manager. So that's what we ask, that you use your agency rate.
Can we go back to the home visits question? Somebody had asked about, like, if we do virtual or telehealth. In this note section, that will be a good place to document the conversation.
Absolutely. It would just be really nice to know that there was like a conversation about housing and housing stability on this form. So that would be a great place to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and what? Okay.
Okay. Well, we're at the end of the questions for now.
Okay.
Perfect. I'm trying to see if I have anything. I think that, so just to know that we are going through a lot of change.
Yeah.
So we're doing DocuSign so that we can get signatures. One of the things that will be coming more towards you from DocuSign. Hopefully it'll be all the paperwork because it's the easiest way to get it signed. But at the very minimum, the releases we are going to ask.
Yeah. Because right now,
other questions?
Right now,
ahead,
I'm emailing. I email 4 different attachments. I'm emailing the annual renewal packet for the landlord and tenant. I'm sending the tenant annual renewal packet. I'm sending the move on assessment questionnaire, and I'm also sending the renewal interview forms. That's a lot, and it's a lot to keep up with for you guys as well, I'm sure. So when we get the forms back, we get them. Some people fax them still to us, and we have a way to check our faxes that come in. And some people may drop them off because we got a drop box now outside the door when you walk up the ramp, and we still get mail. So, but the preference is to have them come back electronically because that process is more efficient and a little bit quicker.
I had kind of an open-ended question. It's Kevin from APC. Where are you seeing some problems and what would kind of fix it? What drives you crazy? It was just kind of an open-ended question.
Well, I think the biggest problem we're having is we're emailing out the recertification packets, and there's a change in case management, and so it's just kind of going out in the ether and nobody gets the packet. So I think the main thing is whether we send it to the clinical coordinator or we send it to another place, just so we're all on the same page, so we make sure that the right person gets the renewal paperwork. I think that's the biggest problem I'm seeing with this process right now. And there's too much paperwork, which I'm sure you guys agree with.
Yeah, too much paper.
Anybody else?
Someone asked if you can CC the coordinators on all emails.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
yeah.
I just need
Them, right?
who's coordinators with which person.
Yeah, a lot of times we don't know who the clinical coordinator is for that specific program. So I think that's something we need to kind of get all on the same wavelength with.
Right. If maybe if everything can be submitted to Sam to come up with document for us to have to be able to CC the coordinator on things, because we don't have that information.
Yeah.
Because right now I kind of keep a hodgepodge of a spreadsheet of emails. So when I have get new emails for people, I just add it to my list. I don't really subtract anybody, but I don't have a definitive person to list it as a care coordinator, or the information changed or it's mixed up. It's not that person anymore. It's this person. And it's like, wait, hold on. So yeah. And then we're using 3 new programs. We're using Yardi. We're using M-Cares. And what else? And we try, DocuSign. So, and we're trying to find the easiest way for everybody, not just for us, but for case managers and clients, and, not being able to go do the processes that we're used to, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and just, not making the rules up as we go, but that's kind of what's been happening.
I do have a question for the case managers and the coordinators with the different agencies, as far as I had a situation where case managers was concerned about going out into the homes and getting forms signed off on. Do your agency have waiver forms where we can do over the phone paperwork where they are electronically signing for them? Do the agencies have those forms? That would be something that would be great, to maybe, assist with them who are not going out into the homes, who have concerns about getting those forms filled out and going into people's houses. Do they have those waiver forms for that? If anybody can click in and tell me.
And at the same time, we're working on getting a waiver. It's kind of, somebody says yes, PC does.
APC does, yep.
So that might be helpful too.
Yes.
Milwaukee Mental Health Association, CCS does.
Okay, great. Because that would make it easier when we do the phone interviews and having the PDF fillable forms that you all can fill those forms out. That would make it easier on everybody to get those forms completed.
If I could, this is Trisha from Whole Health Clinical Group. I didn't really explain my question very well in the chat earlier, so I apologize. But for the case manager change forms,
Yeah.
is what I was thinking. Would it be easier for my home staff if we just listed the clinical coordinator or the supervisor
In the proxy?
because those don't change as frequently, and then you would know to just always contact the supervisor, who could then forward that paperwork on to the primary case manager.
Paula.
You're muted, Paula.
Paula. You're muted, Paula.
Maybe she's doing okay. Anyways, so you said are you just referring to the case manager change form, or are you referring to like all the paperwork?
The case manager change form.
Yeah,
You know,
that would be
instead of
good.
changing
Yeah, if we
it
could,
every
if we
single
could have that listed or list both, would be probably the ideal way to go. Because I think we still want to know who the primary person working with the client is, in case we have specific questions about the client. But the care coordinators definitely would like that information also, would be really helpful.
So just 1 second, I'm gonna share my screen. Because for me, it's like can you see this? So this is the part that I use for the research part. So there's not a part I can add something in here to add the care coordinator name. Is this the form you're referring to, Tricia?
Yes.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can add a section in here or a line in here to put in the care coordinator. Because right now we just track like what the new case manager is.
Yeah, I just was thinking that might be really beneficial for you guys because the supervisor changes less often than a case manager.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, make that note. Yeah. Shriver, do you want to tell them about the purpose of the move on assessment?
Oh, yeah, the move on assessment is something that we're required to do with the through the continuum of care, and HUD wants us to try to identify participants that are, so we it's something else that we're required to do, and I really appreciate helping us out with that, and it kind of helps to focus our attention on folks that are ready to move, trusting that that's done.
Yeah, we keep losing your connection.
It's not even telling me I'm losing my connection. Am I losing my connection now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, the form.
I'll just type it.
How often are they expecting us to use it to have them do this? Every year, every year?
Every year. That's what HUD wants us to do. Look at somebody once a year and a participant, and start thinking about if they're ready to move on.
Yeah, because that's something new that we haven't been doing before. And then
it's a new thing. It's a new thing through HUD. Yes.
Yeah. So extra something to complete.
Because HUD wants to really focus these like my home units and other permanent supportive housing that's funded for homeless individuals. They really want to focus that on those folks that are most in need. They're also focused on client choice though, so they want participants that are ready, that are ready to move on, and to do that as well. So, and to free up slots for those individuals that are most in need.
Yeah. And then for like the renewal interview forms, there's some things that we changed in that process. I don't know, Paul, if you want to elaborate on those renewal interview forms that we do send in the email to them, and the ones that they don't have with like the certification.
With the renewal packets that we do send out to the case manager, there's an interview packet that is now going out, and those are actually the releases of information for Milwaukee County. They also include the certificate in there, but it's not in there. Am I correct, Sam?
No, it's not in there. We took that out. We took that and the tenant estimate out.
And the tenant estimator sheet out
Yeah.
of that. And those forms, when we sit down and do the phone interview, we go over the packets, go over the interview packet. Those release of information forms, we would like the signatures on them, but if not, they can be electronically done. But the certificate is something that we present after the fact. Once we do the phone interview, go over all the paperwork, we send out the certificate after that. Is that the question you wanted me to answer, Sam?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because when we initially started sending that out, it did have both of those forms in there, and then we changed that and took those two out. When I say those forms, the tenant estimate and the certificate of participation, because we decided that they wanted to do that at a later time in the recertification process.
We just can't have certificates floating around. So.
Okay, someone asked if the match report and the case manager change form could be sent out to everyone after this.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
That's it. Questions for right now.
All right. Sorry, my internet is acting up. Oh, I think I see another orange dot, Connor.
It's just comments. Thank you, have to leave. Great information.
And I appreciate everybody's patience as we try. We're really working to try to simplify things. I mean, COVID's kind of pushed the issue of making things paperless and more electronic. But we are really working to simplify things and in the near future. And I appreciate everybody's patience while we try to explore different platforms that might help us all to be more efficient and to serve the program participants in the best way that we can. All right, everybody have a great day.
Real quick, I'm attaching those two forms to this chat because I don't know everybody's email address, but I suppose I can look at the attendance.
Well, we can send it. We can send the forms to Jackie and Jennifer and David, and then they can send it out because they're the ones who forwarded the invites. So okay. We can do that, and then we'll get the forms.
I added it to the chat just in case. So
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, everyone have a great day. I think all of our email addresses are in this chat too. So if you've got questions, feel free to reach out to us.
I also included my cell phone number. Don't call the desk phone, call the cell phone.
Connor, looks like we put in two different, I didn't send mine. I got a different case.
I think, I know somebody was recording this. I think it was, so I've never accessed how to get it recorded, but I'll ask CCS staff how to do it, and then we'll send the directions out how to get the recording.
It's available to everyone that attended.
And then where do you get it, Connor?
It should be in the chat after we're done.
Oh, very good. Wonderful. I can't watch myself, so I will never watch it. All right, everyone have a great day.
Appreciate everybody,
participating. Appreciate everyone. We really do. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice holiday.
Yeah, 3 days.
Woo-hoo. Bye.